So the Common Council is looking at 25, count them, 25 alleys to repave. That's a lot of money. Here's what Sandy Widener, I think, expresses a viewpoint of the council members that want to repave these alleys. Here's what she has to say about it.
Alleys are still public right-of-way. They're used by emergency vehicles, they're used by garbage trucks, they're used by snowplows, they're used by individuals that may need the alley but don't use it on a regular basis. I believe it should be the citizens' choice, and I think a public hearing is the appropriate method for which the residents to express their wishes. So I don't think we should undermine their opportunity to do that, and I hope that you will all join me in supporting this resolution as going forward.
So there we have it, Alderman. I mean, you had opposed this. You wanted to send it back for consideration. The only hope we have is this does not, the way I understand it, this particular item does not put it forward and say we're going to pave them because we have public hearings that come up. That's what she said at the end, public hearings. I just, you know, I've seen some really bad alleys. To me, a little bit of blacktop would fill in some of those holes just fine for an alley. Might not work for a street where you got 18-wheelers riding down them, but these alleys, and I've never seen an ambulance go down a alley, quite frankly.
Well, let's also consider that the issue here was should we be reviewing alleys, okay, for either asphalt or for cement pavement. Okay. And let's also keep in mind that this isn't being paid for out of city tax dollars. This is being paid for based by the homeowners who live on that alley.
That's right.
Based on their linear feet.
I've got assessment right here, one of ours, man, $750. Yeah. And that's just half of it. The guy on the other side of the alley is paying another one. So it's $1,500
for that little 30-foot
that little 30-foot strip.
Keep in mind, everybody's paying that for their alley.
Right. That's right.
So, you know, my statement both at council and at the committee, where I also voted against it, was that I believe that alleys should be a constituent-driven issue. So, in other words, number one, if the constituents, the people who actually live there, if they want their alley paved, okay, whether by asphalt or by cement, then they should bring it to their alderman, and then it should come up for a public hearing. So I think that's a constituent-driven issue. Who knows more about the condition of the alley than the people who live on the alley? So instead, what we've done is we've gone through every alley in the street. This is the last round. This is the first round I've had an opportunity, I believe, to vote on in committee, and I just think why should we be doing this? Because what happens? Here's what happens. The vast majority, and I'm talking more than 90% of these alleys, get deleted. Okay, but what happens prior to them being deleted? We have an engineering staff in the Department of Public Works who actually does a workup on each one of these alleys. They take numerous photos. They do an analysis. They come back to us. Okay, and then more than 90% we reject it. This is a horrible waste of taxpayer money, in my opinion. Okay, if the homeowner wants to have that alley paved, then they should come forward and say, please pave our alley. And we in fact have someone who did this at the last Public Works meeting. And I think that's entirely reasonable. The only other reason I can see is if this alley is one that is used for public access, for let's say governmental access for public safety purposes, an ambulance, things of that sort. I'm frankly unaware of the use of ambulances on alleys, but I guess it's possible.
Theoretically possible, yeah.
If that were the case, then I think the city has an interest in making sure that it's taken care of. I think those situations are few and far between. So my argument was, let's stop wasting money. And second, what do we do? Okay, as Alderwoman Widener said, let's leave it to the constituents to come in for a public hearing. Well, that means that we get to tell a constituent, here's how much money you're going to have to pay if you want this done. And if you don't want it done, you need to come down to City Hall. And if we don't get enough of your fellow residents to oppose it, we're going to go ahead and do it. I think that the default shouldn't be we're going to do it unless you take time off from work and protest it. It ought to be we'll do it only if you come in and say you want it. And I think that's a big difference. Government should be responsive to the people. It should not be dictating to the people. And that's what it's doing in these alleys. And it's costing us money, and it's costing taxpayers and residents time off from work, time out of their day to come down to City Hall, and I think it's just fundamentally wrong.
Thank you for that, Alderman. No further questions. We'll take a break here and then come back and talk about the Thomas Holmes license thing. That issue has been around for years, and I don't know if it's good or bad that it continues on the way it does, but we're going to talk about that as soon as we get back.